when I was growing up, this was the only thing, like just the one and only thing I was good at. I was not good at socializing with other children. I was not cool or hip enough to make a conversation and impress them. I tried that once. Oh my god! I there was this cool girls. They were standing in the just outside the classroom, and I went up to them and said something. I tried to be funny, but it was, oh my god, it was so embarrassing that I decided never to do that again. So, um, art whenever I made art, I wasn't here. I wasn't present in this world, and I got to escape. And wherever I escaped, I was not this shy, this not this introverted kid who did so bad at school. I was not this daughter who was not up to expectations. Nothing. When I was drawing, I was just me, and that was a world I created and I built. And there was no shame in that world, if that makes sense. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and there was nobody else there, and it was so comfortable. So from the age I can remember, from the time I can remember, this was the only thing for me. And now that I'm a grown up, I have a child and I have social skills, but pretty much that child still lives in me when I want it for me to escape or just mm, to be with myself. It's art is always the place that I go. I did not. Hmm. One thing I realized, but this was much later on because all my initial work was me observing, copying what already existed. But I think after the age of 15 or something, I started drawing because I did not have the confidence to draw what came just into my mind, because if somebody looks at it, because I did not have any formal education, it would look weird. But what I realized is whenever I made art, a lot of things that are scattered in my head made a lot of sense. And when I finished a painting, I feel like that was the only way I understood who I was, or I had I started developing self-respect towards myself when I make a piece of art or I finish a piece of art. Like in my 20s, I started doing acrylic paintings, like really big pieces. And when I would like be there for like 6, 7 hours on one painting, no food, no water, just completely in it. And when I finish it, I just sit back and I look at it. And the kind of euphoria, the kind of high, just every cell in my being comes alive. It is an emotion that is too hard to contain within this body, this vessel of mine. It becomes too much, and I after a point I break down and I cry because it's too much. Um but it nothing can give me that, Gayatri. Nothing can come close to the kind of the euphoria that I get when I make art. So I started liking myself more as I made more art. Because according to the society and according to the standards the society has set, I was a complete failure. I was completely unacceptable. Um, in simple terms, not good, not amounting to anything, not good for anything. But when I made art, it's like I left traces of myself that I was alive. Like, even though I completely disappear from this space one day, my paintings are going to stay. And I always fantasized this thing where maybe 100 years ago, after uh, this might come off very crazy, when you know, like after many years, from somebody would accidentally find my paintings and the art doesn't die, and I still live in some form. Yeah, that sounds bizarre, but yeah. There wasn't much of a difficulty after one point because I think my parents sort of gave up on me. There's only so much you can expect and I think because I have multiple siblings, um, they they had somebody to compensate. Like my brother is very good at everything. Like very good at studies. He was the student of the year, the captain of the school. And the teachers always had such. So my parents had somebody to feel proud of. But um, I think um, to, what was very precious for my family. This is no like this is knowing that they were conditioned to think like that. They was like it was a stereotype that they lived and it was imposed on them for years. They were they were very happy if I made my existence so small, so like I wouldn't stand out, so that people would point and say, "Oh, their daughter is up to something." That was not very modest in their eyes. So I had to make myself very small, very insignificant, and prove to be very useful for a man and his family. So my mom always used to say, "Please don't go to another family and put a bad name, like make them say bad about me that I did not teach you well, I did not raise you well." So the focus went into knowing how to cook, knowing how to clean. If you go into that was the whole purpose of our lives. Like when you go into somebody else's house, you should be able to like fold your sheets very very well, and like the utensils have to be like pristine and very clean, and there is a process to how you wash your dishes. Like you can't use too much water, so you have to like first put soap on everything, keep it there, use a little bit of water, be very organized in how you dry your utensils. And there was a very full on manual for it. Like a full guidebook to how you do it, but not a guidebook on how can I stand up for myself when somebody puts me down, or like how can I say something I want, or nothing about that. So no matter how much my parents tried for me to be useful that way, I was absolutely useless that way. And according to me, after one point, especially after my 20s, what I realized is if I am to be that person who just so I'm neurodivergent. I have very bad ADHD. And for me to uh, if I have to like be very successful at cooking, cleaning, taking care of all the domestic stuff, my entire energy and my brain will only go into that. I have to come up with an elaborate list. Well, like I write down everything point by point by point, so I can just. It takes so much energy, and my brain struggles when that happens. But on the same time, this is something that I can, if I make enough money, I can hire somebody to do this, like cooking, cleaning, all that stuff. But on the other hand, if I use that brain power and energy to create art, I felt like this was way more valuable. Like I cannot hire anybody to do what my mind can do. It's just me, and people are not going to remember me for how well I washed the dishes, but I might be able to make an impact on how I draw. I'm not putting down anybody who does domestic labor. I mean, like I look at my husband and I admire it so much, and I try to learn from him. But my brain is designed in a very different way that I really tried, but I'm not able to do it. And it takes so much from me if I'm doing it, and I can't do both. So I have to pick one. And fortunately, in my life, I'm absolutely blessed with people around me who understands that and takes care of that, especially my partner, so that I can shine. Yeah. So my mom always used to say, all these kids, they take a shower in the morning and they come to school like this, and when I try it, I cannot function for the rest of the day. It's so hard, like the cold water touching, like I would have such a big reaction to it. And I thought, just an unhygienic person. Maybe I don't like hygiene, and maybe I'm not trying enough. So I pushed myself. I push myself every day, and I end up just breaking down and crying because I can't do it. So I just thought so low of me. That was the entire thing about being neurodivergent in a school or a household that did not really understand it. And I could see that people were effort, like they would study 2 days before the exam, they would go write the exam, they would get such good marks. And then there I was good at some subjects. I was very good at English, I was good at geography, history. I had a very good memory. But when it came to maths, I really struggled. I still can't, if it's a two-digit number, I can never count in my head. If it's like 12 plus 18, there's no way my brain can process that. Something as simple as that, right? So it really, it really took a toll on how I perceived myself. And it took many years for me to like slowly change that. But there's still days when that sort of creeps in, but I think I have enough and more evidence to tell myself, no, you're worth something. Yeah. I was married. It is such a funny thing. Like I was engaged for 10 months. I never saw the guy I was engaged to apart from like a video call. And I had even an engagement party where I was standing by myself on the stage. I was getting engaged. It was my full blown engagement, but it was just me. Like I haven't seen the person kind of stuff. And while I was in that marriage and while I was going through that, I realized that I am heading to a breaking point or a rock bottom. And I realized that um, sooner or later I'm gonna have the name of somebody who broke a lot of rules and somebody who is going like going to bring a lot of shame to the family and things like that. I kind of knew somewhere in my head that that's where I'm headed. And there just was this voice in my head, it's now or never. And it actually, when I think back now, it would have been now or never. Either I would have just made myself different and would have just pushed through it so that my parents stays happy and things like that, or I had to break out. So this was a work I did for it was a big client, and it was good money, and that was the first time I ever got money like that, and I just took it to the art store. I got the money, I took it straight to the art store, and I'm like, how much paint? How many canvas can I get? How much paint can I get? And I was absolutely frantic at that point. I did not function like a normal person. Like I used to have these. So the canvas roll I used to get was like 3 meters or something, really big. I wouldn't even chop up the canvases sometimes. The whole canvas, I would. My dad had a big carport, so I would just put the canvas, the whole thing, on the carport, and I would take these acrylic paint tubes. I would squeeze them, and I walk on the canvas back and forth because I did not have the time or the energy to actually create big backgrounds just using my hands. So I was walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like a crazy person. And acrylic dries out very quickly. So the drying time is very less. So it was not just my mind, it was not just my hand, my entire body and my entire existence was completely on it. And these paintings were made. Yeah, I don't know. It was just, I think maybe it was the future me just talking to a younger me. So I did it when my exhibition was when I was, I think, 25 or something, 25 or 26. Yeah, I think it would have been a me from now, just like if I could if I could go back in time, I would say the same thing to myself. Just do those paintings and just get out of the house and just go to an exhibition, even if it feels so scary. Because up until that point, like my dad used to drop me to college and just collect me back from college. I haven't really traveled anywhere. Very less external exposure. Didn't really know much about the world, but I think that sort of when you don't know so much, where does the fear come from? If you don't know you're going to drown in water, you wouldn't be so afraid of water. It's that exposure that makes you so scared, and I did not really have that exposure. Um, yeah, I think it was just a very, very, very strong gut instinct that I should do it, and I'm so thankful that I followed it, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now if I didn't take that. What I think, the way that I was perceived as was this girl who wasn't outwardly very, um, who did not outwardly probably come across as too confident. Somebody from a small town, and I used to wear a hijab at the time. And I don't think I ever like stood tall like the way I stand now. I don't think I ever like really stood tall ever during that time. And I think it was fascinating for people to come up with the scale of work and the amount of work that I came up with, and how unconventional it was at that time. Now we have a lot of art and a lot of artists to compare to. There was a lot of artists at the time, but we did not have a lot of accessibility or exposure towards their work. And because I was completely self-taught, and I was doing the funny, weird things that I was doing, my art was a little. It had a different language. So I think it did not really strike me as difficult, but I was so fascinated to see the world open. Like I felt like I was standing in front of this giant door, and on the other side of the door is this massive universe brimming with life and hope and opportunities and things like that. So I was just the door. I saw the door open a little bit, and I can see a glimpse of that. So it did not register in my head that this is difficult, but I was just overwhelmed by the possibility of it. I can finally not be so afraid, and I can finally maybe live, and be a person. So um, I think what was romanticized is definitely the scale of my work and how fast I was producing it, and how unrealistic I was about the whole thing, um, and how I did not restrict myself. I just when somebody just casually asked me, okay, you did a first exhibition in Calicut, why not just go for a second one in Kochi? I was like, why not? So and for my first exhibition, it was Geetu Mohandas who no, for my second exhibition. First exhibition was Shahbaz Aman who inaugurated it. And like I said, because I did not have that kind of exposure, I wasn't really afraid of asking. And I remember when my second exhibition, when I moved my second exhibition, I announced it. It was happening in Darbar Hall in Kochi, and I announced it and everything. And I got a call like I was at the gallery, like setting up the paintings and everything. 2 days before the exhibition, I got a call from some people who organizes the event. They said that an artist passed away, and they want to honor the artist, they want to put up this artist's work. They want to exhibit their work, and they cannot have my show. But they don't understand that this show is life or end for me. I can't like I can't just I don't have that kind of support system where I can just call my family and say, "Oh, it did not work out. Can you help me do it somewhere else?" No, this is all by myself. This is all me. And I remember uh, I got the contact for this cultural minister, Okay. And I'm just calling him and I don't know how to speak, but I'm saying like, you have to make this work because, I come this long and I'm not scared to talk to this person because I don't know anything, right? I'm telling this person, can you please make it work? And this person, actually, I don't really remember the name. It's all a blur to me. But this person actually spoke to me for a very long time. And I'm saying that this artist is dead. Okay. This might sound very disrespectful, but this artist has passed away. I understand honoring that artist, but I'm alive. I am still alive. And I really want my art to be out there because this might be the only chance that I get to do that. Um, and it was arranged. And he called the organizers and he made it work. So it was it was such a ride, Gayatri. It was just like from somebody who did not have the guts to go up to strangers and talk, and I was just doing all of that. And so all the excitement that I was missing out from my life was just like crash course, just given to me in like a very short span of time. So more than difficult, it was so exciting. Oh, I when I reach a milestone, I feel ecstatic, but for like 5 minutes. I feel so over the moon, but then I'm like, I've reached here and now what? So um I still, that's the thing. I don't really feel like I've achieved much. I when I reach somewhere, it just becomes the base for it. So I'm still on the ground. I'm not high up anywhere. That becomes my floor. That becomes my base. And what I am so excited about, Gayatri, is I know where I came from. I know how little it was, right? And where I am now, I am so fascinated by the way the world works. Because it all came from my this, you see the skull, you see the circumference of this, all this came from this little shell and a little brain inside it. And that is what fascinates me. Like how many doors will open more. One thing I know from growing up in the environment that I grew up is, um, it's a privilege. It was a privilege to have access to art. Like if you grew up with strict parents, or if you, whatever your situation might have been, it was such a privilege to be able to make art or um, to learn art. And now that I've come across this far, I've learned a lot of things along the way. And I don't want people to take another 10, 15, 20 years to figure it out by themselves. So, and I know that art education can be like, if you go to university and everything, it can be quite expensive. So, what I want, the reason why I came up with Studio Artkin is I want to create a platform where people can, I can teach them what I learned over all these years, my trial and errors. Because I I'm not technically trained. I do things a little differently, but I feel like everybody deserves that opportunity. If they want it, they should be able to learn it. Um, and I want Studio Artkin to be very beneficial on a community scale as well. Uh, so basically, a place where people, if you really want to learn art, just come along, and we'll let us teach you without complicating it too much. I the Right after I gave birth to him, there was this question I was encountered with if I should just take a break with everything, focus entirely on him, and maybe just focus more on, because this was suggested to me by some people. They were like, focus more on being a mother, focus on being a good mother to your son. And you've done so much art. Like, you've done what you really wanted, so why not like really focus on family life and just focus on family life? But I know that I will have so much resentment towards that idea after some years. Maybe 1 year would feel okay for me, but I will not be me if I stop creating. And after some years, and if I tell Amu like, "Oh, Mama just sacrificed everything so I can raise you," that weight should not fall on a child. That is not his responsibility. He did not ask that of me. But it was my decision. It was my responsibility, and I willingly brought this child into this world, and that child owes me nothing. And it is up to me to keep myself happy. It is not anybody else's responsibility. And no matter, if I choose to have a child and if I want to have my career along, I need to make it work. I need to do it. And I know that when it comes to things I love, I will go to war. I will push and I will do it. So when the way that I want Amu, because I know that however I am or however the relationship me and my partner has, it'll shape his idea of how a woman is, and um it'll also teach. I want to teach him how powerful women can be. I want him to think that, oh, my mama, she had me, and then she was an artist, and then she did this, and then she did this. So um yeah, I owe it to myself and him, um, that I do not give up, that I do not back off. And I've come such a long way to go back now. And it is hectic. It is hectic, and I get burned out so much. Um, but at the same time, I have a son, I have a loving partner, and I have a work and something that I'm so passionate about. And the exhaustion that comes from that itself is a blessing, because these were things I never thought I could ever have. So if I'm exhausted from it, sometimes I sit back and I'm like, okay, let's think from another angle. The exhaustion comes from all these blessings. Uh, I don't get a lot of time to work as 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 I used to, and my working style has become even more faster. And I use these pockets of times where he naps or when he sleeps or something to just, and I have a good support system with my partner and my partner's family as well. Um, it makes me want to push more. Uh, and yeah, I want my son when he's like 30, 40, 50, when he's a grown person. I want him to just look at what his mama did and know that a woman is absolutely and so powerfully capable of everything, no matter what the circumstances. I, I love writing. I uh, I have been writing for a very long time, but I wouldn't call myself a writer. I don't feel like I'm quite there to call myself a writer, even though I would love that. When I think this was right after Ramu was born, um, I couldn't I couldn't make much art at that point, but after I became a mother, after going through that experience of being a mother, I had so much to tell. I had so much to say. Had so much love and rage and anger and resentment and grief and joy. There's so much in me that um, my experiences very much like catharsis. My experiences need to be told in a certain way. They're so adamant to be told in a certain way, either through art. You put me out through art or through words or through any form of expression. I'll leave you. Otherwise, I will not leave you. I'll just keep haunting you. So in this book, I don't have the guts to publish it yet because I know that it is going to create some ripples and there will be consequences and repercussions and things like that. My mother will be deeply upset with me. And she was asking me, she's just like, why do you have to write unpleasant things? Just can't you just forget it? And I tell mom, no, mom, this is the only way it'll leave me. And it's okay to be misunderstood at this point. It's okay because in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter what people think. It does not matter. It's a thought, and you can switch off that thought. Um, but this book will be one thing I do to honor the child I was, the teenager I was, what I've experienced. And I think it'll resonate with a lot of people who experience the same. And I think it is important to do that so that you know that what you went through was very valid. It was, it was not something that that you should just randomly just forget. If it happened to you, it happened, you know. So um, yeah, it is a very intense book, and it's almost done. But the thing about me is when I finish some stuff, I lose excitement for it. And I should push to get it published. That should be the end goal of it. But sometimes I'm very happy that I was able to do it. Like I'm happy with the fact that I wrote a book, but then it just sits in my folders. But when it comes out, it will be. It talks about a lot of things I did not have the guts to talk about otherwise, and it shatters a perfect image of a lot of things. It talks about religion. It talks about grief. It talks about abuse. It talks about um, it talks about deeply rooted patriarchy. It talks about how it is to grow up as a brown girl in a very strict setting. Um, yeah, it explores a lot of different things. Yeah. That yeah, it's a very sad thing, but I think I'll be just so fascinated looking at me, and I would just observe how I sit tall. There was this incident where so I studied architecture, and it took me longer than my other colleagues to finish because yeah, because of how good I was at it. So I went after like graduating and everything, like probably like 3 years or something back. I went to my university to get a paper of like something, some paper, and I went up to the dean of the department. He was a sweet uh, person, and he was asking me, what have you been up to? I saw what you've been doing, and da, 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 da. And he was writing the document, and he asked me this question. He was like, are you taller now? Because I don't remember you being this tall. And I told him, no, it's just because I never had the guts to stand up straight. I was always this tall, but then I never stood up straight. That's and he smiled at me. But but I that incident just stays in my mind a lot. And I think if a younger me sees me now, she would look at she would look at me with so much admiration on how I have developed the ability to sit tall and to just like to be even able to have a conversation, hold a conversation and talk like this. Yeah, because I could never imagine. No.